I am Michael Luckman, and I create hugely successful people. I used to say salespeople, but now I started writing my book, Overpowering Fear, Defeating the #1 Challenge in Sales and Life, to help people that have to sell. But then as I wrote it and I was working with my publisher, I realized that everybody succumbs to fear. Everybody has these challenges. Nobody is free from it. The only difference between the poorest person and the richest person is the richest person has overpowered their fears, have done what they were scared to do, and did it and succeeded. And the other person hides behind it. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I'm afraid to do that. Why is fear so powerful? Well, we were born to fear. It's built into us. From the time we came up from that primordial soup, onto land, we had a nodule in the base of our brain, in the old reptilian part of our brain, called the amygdala. And the amygdala is tied into our 5 senses. And it's designed to warn us when there's danger. It works. You're all here. That's proof that it works. Anybody not seated here, their ancestors died off. You're here. Okay? So fear is both physiological. You know what fear feels like, right? My God, that emptiness in your chest. Your breathing picks up. You need more oxygen. Your heart rate goes up. The adrenaline starts flowing through your body. You get that emptiness in your gut, right? Do you know why that is? That's because your body is preparing itself for either to fight or to flee. To either fight for your very life or to flee, and that's perfect. That's great when somebody walks up to you with a gun, sticks a gun in your face. It's great your body responds that way. But why does your body respond that way when you're sitting in your automobile, waiting outside a prospect's office, and you are scared to death to get out of your car and go knock on their door and introduce yourself? Why? Why should your body respond the exact same way from a gun or to shaking somebody's hand? It's crazy. It's really crazy that that happens. Now, when does fear become the evil destroyer? It's a destroyer of your dreams. But why? Because if you can't get to the other side of fear, you've lost something. If you can't walk through your fear, which is not real to begin with, and get out of your car and go there and introduce yourself and talk to them about the solutions that you have, and instead you say, oh, they didn't want to talk to me anyway. Oh, they're a big account. They probably want to deal with some bigger companies, IT companies. And what do? You start making up all these excuses, right? All these reasons why they didn't want to do business with you. And do you know something? You just lost. You lost the income that account would give you. You lost the opportunity to be a trusted advisor. You lost everything right then and there when you succumb to your fear. Fear has been your nemesis from so very small. Fear has stopped you. You weren't born with fear. Infants only feel fear. They have 2 fears. They have a fear of loud noises and a fear of falling. Every other fear that you feel, that you experience, has to do with the irrational thoughts going on in your mind. That's all. That's where your fear comes from. You realize that when you realize that you were not the center of the universe, that there was other little kids that needed support and help, and that mommy and daddy had other things to do, like work and cooking and cleaning. And so you learn to live your life in fear. And it never got any better. Even today, even at whatever age you are carrying with you fears that you've had for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. My mother is going to be 93 in the beginning of May, and we still talk about some of the fears she has and some of the regrets going back. And I said, Mom, forget about it. Live. Oh, I can't. I worry about you guys. Let's talk about the things you may not know about selling. Selling is a noble profession. My great-grandmother came over here in the early 1900s. She was a widow. She came from Russia. She left her entire family back in Russia and she came here. She had a cousin in Chicago and she moved to Chicago, and the first thing she did, she bought a wagon with a horse. And she went up and down the alleyways in Chicago. And what she did was she bought and sold used furniture. In the heat of summer and the coldest winters, she was in those alleys, worrying if the horse was going to freeze, let alone her. 1912, she brought my grandfather over. He joined her on the wagon. They opened up a store and sold used furniture. And they bought new furniture. Last few years, my cousin sold off to an equity firm, the largest furniture retailer in the Chicagoland area, started by a little old widow from Russia. Think of that. Instead of saying, what's the worst that can happen, let's start talking about what's the best that can happen.